What is up, cinephiles, and welcome back to Screen Kings. For today's movie review, let's talk about an Apple original film called The Greatest Beer Run Ever, directed by Peter Farrelly. This one is an incredible true story that happened back in 1967 when a former Marine named Chickie Donohue, played by Zac Efron, decides to do something completely outrageous in order to show support to his neighborhood friends who are serving time in Vietnam. He decides to travel to the front line all the way from the New York City to Vietnam just to bring the soldiers a little piece of home, specifically an American beer. So this one is a biopic war dramedy. So I suspect some people might struggle with the tonal imbalance initially that this movie presents, balancing that broad comedy and that a bit harrowing and melodramatic side of it. There are some previous films in the past like Forrest Gump who have pulled this off, showcasing the dark absurdity of what it is to just die for basically nothing. So my main worry here is, will this film be a bit tone deaf and offensive? Will it be a disservice to the history, most specifically to the Vietnam War? Thankfully, this film didn't really reach on that level. It's not a riot comedy per se, but the main hook here is to watch the absurdity of the premise play out, because Chickie Donohue here is a bit of a naive, wide-eyed optimist character. He doesn't have a clear plan on how he's going to do this thing, so he is just going by his reckless rules, and he just hitched from one ride to another, spending a couple of months on ships, relying on luck and social skills to befriend other people that might help him to find his military friends in a country that he has never been before. So once he gets into the Vietnam, or in Saigon, which I think is the Hochman city nowadays, once he learned that the term tourist, which he uses for himself, is actually the term that military people would use for CIA, he rides along with it. So there might be some needed suspension of disbelief in here. Is it that easy to bypass these protocols? So in that aspect, I wouldn't say the movie really did well in terms of convincing you that this really happened. Maybe because it's part of the comedic nature. But his recklessness lends the movie a lot of humorous moments that just underscores the gravity of the situation. The war is just used for the first half as a comedic backdrop. I would say the second half of the film is much better, where it gets into more serious tones, because I think Peter Farrelly chose this kind of tone, some sort of a comedy or a drama film masking as a comedy, because he wants to highlight here, emphasize the arc here of Chickie Donohue. He's in the Marines, but if I remember it right, he's never been to an actual war. So his perspective of war is a bit basic. He's not really questioning about the government, and I would say he leans more on the Republican side. Obviously, he's in it for a slow and hard awakening once he gets into the Vietnam and see the real terror that's happening, see how hellish it is, that it's not just a clear battle of two parties, that the lines are blurred. And I would say Zac Efron here is well cast in this role, because he has both of the dramatic chops and the goofball humor to capture his vulnerability, occasional ignorance, definitely a lot of impulsiveness to this character. Though, as a viewer, I wouldn't be surprised if you won't find this character likable, because he's just so adamant with his short-sighted mission that it's hard to get on board on what he's trying to do, and therefore to the whole film. Now, when it comes to the depiction of war, it's not the most comprehensive portrait of the Vietnam War, but then again, the focus here is not solely on the Vietnam War, but on the slow awakening here of Chickie Donohue, that maybe Vietnam wasn't being fought for the right reasons. So the messages of anti-war and soldiers being the victims and their families, it's a bit obvious but still effective. I would say the approach here of Peter Farrelly is more or less what he did in Green Book. He can be commended for being both blunt and subtle in this film. I wish he pushed it a bit further when it comes to the commentary aspect, because it leans more on the crowd pleaser. The movie is definitely not too keen on picking a side here, but there are moments in this film which I love, most especially when Russell Crowe's character here as the perceptive war journalist there is a nice banter between him and Chickie Donohue, where Chickie claims that these reporters are only reporting the bad news, to which he responds that the government is not being truthful to what's happening here in Vietnam. So there's a lot of truths to be found here. I wish they pushed the envelope here a little bit further just so we can learn anything new and controversial, but I love the addition of Russell Crowe's character here because he adds gruff and heaviness to the film. Bill Murray's character is also here in somewhat of an extended cameo, so I felt like that this role is a bit wasted because it doesn't really give much impact. Anyway, on an overall technical design, the production values are great in recreating the 1967 Vietnam, and also the cinematography and the war shots are well done. The soundtrack here is fun and toe-tapping and stark contrast to the grim moments happening here. So overall, if you enjoy war films with dark humor in it, like Forrest Gump or The Five Bloods, you should definitely check this out. Though I would say I have seen better and more effective anti-war films here. This is still a road trip worth taking. It has its heart in its right place. Just don't expect anything revelatory when it comes to history lesson. And you know, it's just one of those films that prove that sometimes life is stranger than fiction, because this really happened. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you have a subscription to Apple TV Plus, I definitely suggest to go watch this. And yeah, that's it for my review for The Greatest Beer Run Ever. How about you guys? Have you seen this film? Let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, hit that like and subscribe too if you haven't yet for weekly content. Thank you so much guys for watching. Until then, I'll see you all on the next one.